Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Welcome to lesson 10, Creating Tables and Data Definition Language DDL part 2. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain the constraints while creating the tables, create tables with constraints, and explain the situation of violating the constraint. The Oracle server uses constraints to prevent invalid data entry into tables. Constraints enforce rules at the table level whenever a row is inserted, updated, or deleted from that table. Constraints prevent the deletion of a table if there are dependencies. The following constraint types are valid: not null, the column cannot contain a null value; unique, specifies a column or combination of columns whose values must be unique for all rows; primary key; foreign key; and check constraint, which is the condition must be true. This is the constraint guidelines. You can name a constraint, or the Oracle server generates a name by using the sys_cn format, where n is an integer so that the constraint name is unique. Constraints are easy to reference if you give them a meaningful name. You can create a constraint at either of the following times: at the same time as the creation of the table, or after the creation of the table. You also can define a constraint at the column or table level, and the constraint can be viewed in the data dictionary. So let's take a look on how to create table with table level constraint, create table with column level constraint, create table with composite primary key, and the last one, create table by using subquery. So now I want to create a table without specifying the constraint name. Let's take a look. We have to create table staff ID, number, 10, primary key. So means I want to make sure staff ID will be primary key, staff name, varchar2, the size is 30, not null, means staff name cannot be null. High date, the data type is date and default value is date, and salary, data type is number, size is 10. We want to check salary greater than 1000. Okay, so this is what we call as constraint. Okay, we have three different constraints here: primary key, not null, and check constraint. So let's try to execute this query first. Okay, so once you created the table, okay, after we refresh here, we will see that we will have the table stuff again. Okay, however, take a look at constraints over here. Okay, take a look, we have check constraint, staff name is not null. Okay, this is the not null constraint. We have a check, salary greater than 1000, and primary key. Okay, so this is, take a look at constraint name. So this is the constraint automatic name, C007003. So this is the constraint name. So by right, since we don't give our constraint a name, the Oracle server will give it automatically. Okay, so now let's try to insert the data. Okay, so now if I want to insert 101, then I click commit, then I will receive an error. Okay, I will receive an error message. If you take a look here, cannot insert null into staff name. Okay, so means staff name cannot be null. Remember, we have the constraint just now. Okay, so if I put this one, if I click commit, then it can be done, even though because we don't check salary cannot be null. So since this one is not a number, this is a null, so they don't check for the check constraint. Okay, salary greater than 1000. But what if I put another 101 for Abu? So this one we take 60 and this one we take 2000. Okay, so can this be inserted? No. Why? Take a look. Unique constraint violated. C007005 violated. So what is the constraint here? Since we don't know, isn't it? Because based on our table here, the constraint C005. Take a look. If we click constraint 005, then you need to check. Okay, it is a primary key. So means primary key cannot be the same. So that's why please give your constraint a name so that you will not be confused. What does it by C007005 violated? Okay, so this one is for the primary key. Primary key cannot be the same. Okay, it must be unique. Okay, so if we insert this one, it can be inserted. Okay, so let's try another one. 103 Ali. Then the salary I put as 900. Okay, the salary I put as 900. Can this be inserted? No also. Why? Take a look. They say that C004 violated. What is 004? Salary must be greater than 1000. Okay, so that's the importance of having the constraint, so that we can insert only valid value in our database. So if we click commit here, then it can be inserted because salary should be greater than 1000. That's the check constraint that we have done while creating the table. So let's take a look on how to create the constraint by using column level constraint. Okay, so I empty my table just now. So the first thing, I want to create table department first. Okay, create table. Okay, create table departments. Okay, I open the parentheses here. So the first one, I want to have a department ID, tab ID. So this is a number, the size is 10. Okay, so since I want to create a column level, after this column has been defined, I want to create a constraint for this column. So I don't comma yet. Why I don't comma? Because I don't finish with this column yet. Okay, so then I put constraint. Then what's the constraint name? Tab ID underscore PK. So this is the constraint that I gave, because I want the department ID to become primary key. So what's the constraint is all about? Primary key. Okay, so now I want to make sure that this is the constraint primary key. This is the constraint name for this dep ID. Okay, department ID. Okay, so now I want to go to the next column. I can comma. Okay, then comma on the second one. I want to put department name. For example, it is a var2. Okay, the size is 30, for example. And what do I want to put the constraint for this name? The constraint here is department name, to put and means not null. Okay, so now I finish with this column, then I can close this parenthesis. So if I execute this one, table departments created. Okay, the table department has been created. So let's take a look at what the difference by having the column level. This is column level. We define a column, we define the constraint to this column. If you want to go to the next column, then we need to comma over here. Okay, take a look at the constraint. See, the constraint name now is more significant than having a number just now. Okay, so we have dep ID underscore PK. This is for primary key. Then dep name underscore NN. We want to check the department name is not null. Okay, so this is how we create the table, the constraint by using column level. After you define the column, define the constraint straight away. After you define the column, define the constraint straight away. So after creating table departments just now, then I want to create table stuff. So this is what we call as creating table stuff by using a column level constraint. After we define the column, we define the constraint straight away. Take a look here. Create table stuff, stuff ID number 10. Constraint stuff ID underscore PK primary key. So means the stuff ID should be a primary key. Stuff name, the constraint is not null. For stuff address also, the constraint is not null. So take a look here. After you define the column, do not comma yet. You put the constraint first. After you finish with the constraint, then we can put comma to go to the next column. Take a look at salary here. Constraint salary CK. This is salary CK is the name of the constraint. I want to check salary greater than 1000, then finish. Take a look at email here. I have two different constraints over here. The first one, email varchar2 20. So this is the column definition. Then constraint email not null. Constraint email unique. Take a look, this is a unique constraint. Because what? Email cannot be the same for all of the stuff. It must be different email for each and every stuff. So it cannot be null, it must be unique. So see, you define all the constraint, then you put comma over here to go to the next column. There's no constraint on high date, we put the default value as is date. Then department ID. So this is how we define the foreign key. Okay, take a look. Department ID is coming from table departments over here. Okay, department ID coming from table department over here. So how to define the foreign key? Take a look. Department ID number 10. Constraint, this is dep ID FK. Reference, so this is the name, references. Okay, references to which table? Table department. Okay, we have S over here. Okay, departments. So let's add S to stuff also. Okay, constraint department references departments. So table departments, at which column inside department that we want to refer to. Foreign key should refer to the primary key. So what is the primary key? Department ID. So departments, department ID. Okay, so if we execute this one, okay, we see that table stuff is created. Okay, so let's refresh over here. So now we have two different tables. Okay, we have two different tables, department and staff. Okay, department and staff. Staff is referring to table departments by using department ID. Okay, so now let's try to insert data into department first. Okay, so since we have department is the parent, staff is the child, because staff is referring to department, so of course we need to insert the data inside department first. So let's say I put department 10. Department name is A. Okay, then we have another department, department 20. The department name is B, for example. So let's commit over here. Okay, so now if I want to insert data into staff table, then if I click here, staff ID 101, staff name. Okay, so let's put the name over here. Okay, then staff address maybe in KL. Then salary is 7,000. Email Hamis. Okay, then the hire date we put, okay, department, take a look, I put department 30. Okay, department ID is a number, isn't it? So I put 30. Can this be inserted or not? We have error message. Take a look. Department ID FK violated, parent key not found. Because if you take a look, department ID 30, if you go to table department, we have only department 10 and 20. Okay, so we have only department 10 and 20. So how can you insert department 30 just now? So that's why it cannot be inserted. They say that parent key not found. Okay, so that's what we call as violating the constraint. Okay, violating the constraint. So let's take a look here. Okay, let's put another one. Okay, then email is, let's put this email, then hide the default value, then department ID I put as 20. Okay, so if I execute this one, then it can be inserted. Because why? If you take a look over here, inside departments, we have department 10 and 20. So there is a reference. 20 must be referred to the department ID inside departments table. Okay, so that's the importance of having the foreign key over here. Okay, so I hope you get it on how to create table at column level. So this is like a column level. You define a column, define constraint. Define column, you define the constraint. You can put many constraints on the columns. Okay, depending on what you want. Okay, what are the rules of your database? So let's take a look on another one. Okay, I forgot to show you on what if I want to delete department 20. Can this be done or not? Okay, so if I want to delete department 20 here, then I commit. Okay, then I will receive an error message. Okay, so take a look here. Integrity constraint, department ID FK violated, child record found. Because why? Department 20 is referred by staff inside staff table. Okay, so there are reference. Okay, so if I want to delete department 10, there's no problem. Okay, if I delete department 10, there's no problem. Okay, we can delete the data. Why? Because of there's no stuff referring to that particular value. But if I want to delete this department 20, it cannot be done. Why? Because staff table, there are stuff inside. There is stuff inside staff table that is referring to that particular parent table, department 20. So let's take a look back. Okay, so let's drop this table. Okay, so let's drop the table. Okay, because now we want to see on how to create the table by using table level constraint. We want to check. We want to create the same table. However, take a look here. In table level constraint, we define all the columns first. Then after that, we define all the constraints. Okay. So take a look here. Create table departments. Okay. Create table department. Department ID number 10, department name varchar 230. Then after we finish with the column, we put the constraint. Constraint dep ID PK primary key. So now who is the which column is the primary key? Department ID. Then we put inside the parenthesis. Then constraint. Okay, take a look. For the not null constraint, we need to use check constraint over here. Okay, we need to use check constraint. Okay, constraint department name and n. Okay, this is the constraint name. We have to check department name is not null. So this is how we do not null constraint for our table level constraint. So if we execute this one, the table department is created. Okay, table department is created. Okay, so after table department is created over here, okay, then we can refresh, then we will see that table department has been created. Okay, so let's put the data first. I put 10 as A, the same thing of what we have done just now. Then we put department 20 as B. Okay, so if you take a look over here, if after we commit, then the data will be listed in the table. Okay, so now let's take a look on how to create the staff table by using table level constraint. So this is the SQL for create table staff by using table level constraint. As I said, we list all of the columns first: staff ID, number 10, staff name, varchar 2, staff address, varchar 2, salary, number, email, varchar, hire date, date, then department ID, number. Okay, after we have done with all of our columns, we define of all of our constraint. Okay, the first constraint is primary key staff ID. Check staff name is not null. We check staff address is not null. We check salary greater than 1000. We check email is not null. We check unique for email. Then constraint foreign key department ID. Take a look. For the foreign key, this is a little bit different. Okay, just now we have constraint references straight away. Take a look here. Constraint, we put a constraint name foreign key. So now which column inside this table is foreign key? Dep ID, department ID here. References to which table? Department. Which column inside department? Department ID. So we need to add the foreign key keyword over here. Okay, so if we execute this one, then table staff has been created. Okay, table staff has been created. The same thing, if you want to insert the data, it has to be a valid data also. Okay, so the reason why we put the constraint, because we want the data to be valid in our database. Okay, okay, department ID I put as 10 for example. Okay, if I put 100, it cannot be inserted. Okay, if I put 100, we will receive an error message. Okay, parent key not found. Okay, parent key not found. So because of inside the table department, we have only department 10 and 20. So now I change to 10 and it can be committed into database. It is saved in the database. Sometimes in our database, we can have a bridge table which will have the composite primary key. Okay, for example here, many staff can have many departments. Okay, let's just take this one as the example. Okay, so many staff can have many departments, so you need to have the bridge table. So I name the bridge table as staff dep. Okay, so inside here what I have, staff ID, constraint staff ID primary key, department ID, constraint department ID primary key. So this is a composite primary key, isn't it? Because we have the, normally we have the PKFK, okay, for the bridge table. Then job role, constraint job role not null. Okay, then I forget to add another constraint over here. Okay, so normally it is a PKFK, isn't it? So we have another constraint for staff ID FK1. Okay, staff ID FK1 foreign, oh sorry, references. Okay, references for table staff ID. Okay, so this is for the first constraint. So this is the PKFK. Okay, remember we have the PK, normally we have a PKFK for the bridge table. Okay, so this is step ID. Okay, so let's change the name. Tab ID FK2. Okay, so if we want, so this is what we call as a column level, isn't it? After each column we define the constraint. But if we do it this way, we will receive an error message. Okay, we will receive an error message over here. Okay, because why? Because we define the primary key 2 times over here. you need to remember for each and every table, primary key definition can only be once. Okay, so since we define two different primary key over here, so that's why we receive an error message. Okay, so the only way to have the composite primary key for our table is by using a column level constraint. So let's remove this one first. Okay, as I said, you need to define all the columns first. Okay, put all the columns first. Okay, we have all the columns. Okay, then we define all of the constraint. So the first constraint that we want to have here is the primary key. Okay, primary key constraint. So we change the name here to staff department PK. Then we define primary key. So now in this table, which column is the primary key? Staff ID, comma, department ID. Okay, staff ID, comma, department ID over here. Okay, then we comma over here, go to the next constraint. So the next constraint that we want to have is the foreign key, isn't it? Foreign key constraint, because this is a PKFK. So the first one we put as staff ID FK1. Okay, staff ID FK1 references to staff ID. Okay, the second one is constraint department ID references department ID. Oh, I forget to add here foreign key. Okay, the foreign key is a bit different here. Foreign key, the first one is staff ID. Foreign key definition is different. Okay, then on the second one also we need to add foreign key before references, because this is a table level constraint. So department ID references department dep ID. Okay, so now the last one constraint is job ID not null. Okay, then we close the parentheses. Okay, so if we execute this one, so I forgot to change here. This is, we need to use check constraint. We need to check staff ID. Job role is not null. Okay, so now let's try to execute this one. Okay, so now the table staff department has been created. Okay, so remember, if you have a composite primary key, you can only use table level constraint. So define all the columns and define all of the constraints. So this is the example on how to create the bridge table, the PKFK references. We also can create table by using a subquery. For example, select, let's say I put select employee ID. So this is from table HR schema. Select employee ID, last name, salary and commission percentage. Okay, all of this coming from employees table, where department ID equals to 80. Okay, so let's say we have this query. Okay, so from this query we have 34 records. Okay, we have 34 records. Okay, so now what if I want to have a table named department 80? So I create table department 80 and I need to add as keyword. Okay, create table department 80 as this subquery. Okay, so if I execute this one, okay, table department 80 has been created. Okay, take a look. Let's refresh the table. Okay, so inside here we have table department 80. But take a look at the data. We have all the 34 data that we have inserted, that we have selected just now. Okay, then take a look over here also. We have only employee ID, last name, salary, and commission percentage. It will take exactly the same as what we selected from the original table. Okay, so this is how we create a table by using subquery. Okay, so if you want to drop a table, okay, so now let's go back to our testing database. Okay, so if I want to drop the table, as I said just now, you see me right click this one and drop. Okay, but actually you can drop by using the SQL drop table. Okay, so what the table that we want to drop? Staff department. Okay, so drop table staff department. Okay, so if we execute this one, table staff department has been dropped. Okay, so the table will be dropped together with its data. It is not recoverable. Okay, so by right, please be careful, because once you drop the table, you cannot get it back. Okay, so you need to run back the SQL to create the table again. So that's all for now. See you again in the next part. Thank you.